This video is sponsored by Surfshark.
The world is currently in flux and we've hit a point with smartphones that I don't think many enthusiasts are going to like. So let me talk to you about why this might be important for you, it might not be for others, and what the future might look like based on what we know about the current trends and events in technology. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and I'm sure many of you have found smartphones hitting a bit above plateau over the last few years, particularly in specific hardware. Software seems to have boomed thanks almost entirely to the rise of AI, whether you like that or not. But is software taking too much priority as to impact hardware progress? Let's dig into that after a quick word from today's sponsor.
What's almost become a staple of a mobile phone toolkit these days has to be a VPN. And not only does Surfshark work on our beloved Android, but also macOS, iOS, Windows and more, Surfshark lets you activate on unlimited devices and access servers across 100 locations worldwide. It not only allows you to secure your connection via tunneling your traffic, but it also lets you use websites that are typically geo-locked or even access content that's only available on other versions of services like Netflix. Or if you're a Premier League fan like me, being able to go on holiday and log into the normal services you typically watch the game on is so easy with Surfshark. There are different plans to suit your use case, so check out the link in the video description to see what works best for you and to get Surfshark for yourself. And a big thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring today's content.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that big tech really wants AI to succeed. It has become the buzzword for basically anything these days. My brother sent me this screenshot a couple of days ago. A toothbrush with AI? Come on, man. Anyway, one of those focuses is for AI in smartphones. The most used personal technology on earth, it makes sense why you would want AI in it if you're a business. But I don't know if you've noticed, as AI has picked up, so has the cost of certain hardware. Things like RAM spring to mind, and even graphics cards. Sorry to get a bit real with you guys, but components seem to be constantly becoming more expensive, and the global economy is in a bit of a state of flux. Things aren't going great right now, and I believe this plays in large part to the current smartphone plateau. What I mean by the plateau is the fact that not long ago we were making big strides in smartphone hardware technology. It felt like every other year there was actually a substantial reason to upgrade. It felt like you could justify the upfront cost. Screens were growing in resolution and refresh rate, batteries were sizing up, as were camera sensors, lenses, how many of those cameras would be included on the smartphone, SoCs were jumping consistently in performance, and the amount of RAM and storage included was also massively increasing in the late 2010s. If you went from like a Nexus 6P to a Pixel 2 XL, you felt that. From the Galaxy S5 to the S8, that was a monumental upgrade, and it was only 3 generations. But these days, it feels like you could go from an S21 or S22 Ultra to an S24 or S25 Ultra, maybe even the upcoming S26 Ultra, and not feel that same impact. It feels like in many ways, instead of innovating in hardware, companies are focused on innovating in software and AI to bridge that gap. This isn't smartphone specific, by the way, for any of you into computers. Nvidia has its frame generation, which to say it's caused a rift in the tech space might not be painting the full picture. I mean, it just went crazy. Being sold similar hardware to the previous generation, maybe slightly upgraded, but with AI to bridge that gap, it kind of feels like we're being shortchanged. It doesn't feel real. It feels like we're being handed fake frames the same way we might be handed fake resolution or fake camera quality. And it seems like this has had a pretty big impact on hardware growth as well. Smartphone cameras have remained stagnant for the last 2 to 3 generations, and this is evident across iPhones, Pixels, Samsung Galaxy, even OnePlus as well. We aren't seeing those massive sensors and lenses that models from China, such as the Vivo Ultras, Oppo Ultras, Xiaomi Ultras, and so on, are having. Features like the 1-inch type sensors, variable aperture, some large periscopes with sometimes mechanical zoom components. These are basically never seen outside of Chinese models. And that's likely because of 2 things. One, they are incredibly costly to implement and would send the cost of a Galaxy Ultra, an iPhone Pro Max or a Pixel Pro XL to the moon, adding potentially hundreds of dollars to the MSRP of these things. And two, very much related to that first point, is that money is kind of tight across the world at the moment. People aren't likely to want to spend upwards of $1,600 on a smartphone with better hardware that honestly might not even make that much difference to their overall user experience. To us enthusiasts, things like massive camera sensors, lenses that are just crazy and really exciting, they make us want to buy those smartphones. And we can notice those subtle differences in the outcome. Stuff like dynamic range, natural depth of field, and so on. But when a lot of this can largely be simulated or done in software on the hardware we already have in our pockets, it makes it kind of hard to justify on a mainstream flagship model that we're sold in the millions over here in the West, very different from those ultra smartphones from China. And this actually hits another point in that people, I think, are generally quite happy with the hardware that's on offer right now, even the hardware that they might already have in their pocket that they bought a couple of years ago. The worries that we had in the late 2010s aren't the same worries we have now. Things like battery life, screen size, performance, internal storage, physical dimensions, camera quality. These are all really good at the baseline these days, and it doesn't seem like there's a real cry for more hardware. That's crucial, because if a company feels like it can keep selling similar hardware year on year and still sell it for the same price, still make decent money, why wouldn't it? Why spend so many millions, if not billions, developing crazy new designs and hardware if the consumer ultimately doesn't really care? Funnily enough, two things that have improved quite substantially in the recent years, neither can be fixed or improved with AI. The first being screen brightness, and the second being battery capacity. On the former, we have seen recent devices ship with increasingly bright displays, particularly from Google and OnePlus. This might not seem like a big deal on paper, but it plays a great role in making your phone just far more readable out in direct sunlight. And then on the other side, silicon carbon battery tech has made phones from the likes of Oppo and OnePlus absolutely decimate anything else that has a traditional lithium-ion setup when it comes to longevity. It's almost like the saying we have in the car scene, there's no replacement for displacement. These 7,000 plus milliamp hour setups can last upwards of 3 days, where the equivalent Pixel, iPhone and Samsung phones tap out quite a long time before. AI isn't doing anything to help that currently, and given just how much we're told that AI is power hungry, I'm not sure that will. Importantly, would anything be really any different had we not gone down that AI road? Had the economy not gone into a worrying state? Possibly, but I also feel like the idea that consumers are already content and happy with what they have wouldn't have changed. It could be seen positively or negatively depending on how you want to look at it, but I think consumers are both happy enough to not use cutting edge technology, and also the fact that there are so many other things going on in the world. I think people just straight up don't care about these smartphone problems. 99.9% of all smartphone users, maybe even more than that, literally don't care one bit that their phone doesn't have a 1-inch sensor, doesn't have 32 gigabytes of RAM, doesn't have an 8,000 milliamp hour battery. And you can't sustainably build enthusiast smartphones for non-enthusiasts. It doesn't work like that. I'm not saying we won't see any kind of subtle upgrades going forward, and I personally cannot wait for silicon carbon batteries to come into the mainstream smartphones that we have over here in the West, likes of the Pixels and the Galaxy devices. But for now, we might have just reached the peak smartphone. Guys, are you sick of AI sucking up all of the hardware resources, or are you absolutely perfectly content with what you have right now and the lack of movement in the space? Or do you not mind that we're using software and AI to fill the gap? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments, because it's a pretty divisive topic and it feels like we're really only headed in one direction. Anyway, whilst you're down there, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content and subscribe to never miss another upload on this channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.